Hi Book 2. So I hope everyone has had a great 2022 so far. I've had a fantastic reading year. I've read, I think, 17 or 18 books right now, so that's 2 books a day. And that's mainly because with the Omicron variant going around and spreading so rapidly, I've really made it a point to stay at home. Not that I did much before that, but I want to make a point of staying home as much as possible. So that's left me with lots of reading time. So over the course of this last week, I thought I'd talk about the books that stood out to me. But before that, I thought I'd briefly mention that the 24-hour readathon that I talked about in my Friday Reads video. I had a lot of fun participating in that. This was hosted by the Bookish Bryants, and they said they're going to be doing this once a month throughout the year. So yeah, that was interesting to chat with people I've never met before, and start following their channels on BookTube. And it was great just to talk about books and knowing everyone was reading at the same time. And I don't normally track outside of how many books I read, and but I don't really follow statistics or anything. But I added it up, and then I think I did 12-13 hours of reading, and that was around 600 pages. So 50 pages an hour or so. So yeah, I thought I would give that, I don't know, tidbit, because I don't normally track this stuff, and it just depends, again, on, the type of book I'm reading. So anyway, let's get into some of my favorite books I've read so far. And so the first one I thought I'd talk about would be a contemporary romance. This is Fetching Sweetness by Dana Mintic, and this is, I think it's the Love Unleashed series. Each book has a really cute cover of a dog, and so this one is following a woman who she's a book agent. She's trying to sign a kind of reclusive author, but when it's a very interesting meetup, because when she goes to meet the author says, I've lost my dog, and so in order for you to sign this contract, for me to sign a contract with you and you're a publisher, you have to find my dog. And then the author up and leaves, and so they're in California at the time, and so the woman that has to find the dog and then drive up to Washington, I believe it was a state, in order to drop off the dog and get the contract. And along the way, she meets the dog. It's really scrappy and real funny. It's chewing on all the things, and the woman's not not used to caring for a dog. And then when she's looking for it, she bumps into a man who she's never met before, but they kind of get roped together into helping each other along the way. And so it's kind of a road trip book with a funny dog, and it's romance, and it was just really nice. The beginning, the plot, right, the device of in order to sign a contract, you have to find my dog and bring it 3 states away. That isn't completely believable, but at the same time, this was just a really cute book to read, and yeah, I would recommend it. I really like the first one as well. I plan to read, I think there's 3 or 4 books in the series so far, and I plan to read all of them. I then have, for a change of pace, there's dog hair on this. Speaking of dogs, I then have, there we go, an essay collection by Ann Patchett. This is These Precious Days. It's essay collection. There's a dog on the cover as well for this one. And I really, really enjoyed this series. And I hadn't read much Ann Patchett at all. I was looking on Goodreads to see what I had read, and I read her marriage essays. It was These Happy Marriages, something like that. I read that a couple of years ago, but outside of that and this, I hadn't read anything. So I'm going to look into reading some of her fiction outside, because I've so far only read her essays. But anyway, because I really liked this collection. Funny enough, a lot of it focuses on death, which is not a topic I normally want to read about. But yeah, I felt like a kinship in a way with her. She talks about her journey of becoming a writer, and all her bumps and bruises along the way, and her different parents that have helped her, because her mom remarried 3 times, and so she had 3 outside of her mom, she had 3 different influences with her dad and 2 stepdads, and they all had a very different approach to parenting. And yet this was just a delight to read, and I highly recommend it, because normally with essay collections or short stories or anthologies, whatever, I'll read 1 a day, something like that, maybe 2 a day. But for this, I didn't want to put it down. I was just reading them all back to back to back, which isn't something I normally do. So yeah, this was a fantastic book. And then another one is To Be a Slave by Julius Lester. This is part of my Newbery book. This is a Newbery Honor book because it has like the silver and not the gold medal there. And this one was a surprise because I didn't know anything about it really going in, you know, outside of the name, you know, what the topic was going to be about. And I listened to this on audio, but I should have written down the narrator. There's several narrators on this because instead of being like instead of being a narrative story, it's little clips of different people who have been interviewed, different quotes in books and things like that from people of all different backgrounds talking about slavery throughout the time of, you know, before the Civil War, during Civil War, and afterwards. And this was just a fantastic read. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. This is for sure one of the standouts of the Newbery books that I've read so far. And the one thing I would say is that there is some cursing in here because they use the N-word quite a lot. And when they bring that word into the book initially, they talk about how that word was started to be used and, you know, why that was and the implications of that. So they do give you a background of why that word is now again also being, you know, prominently used in this book. So if for a child reading this, I would take that into consideration because of that very adult language. But yeah, this was a great book. Let's see. I then have another children's book. This is Everest, Book 1, The Contest by Gordon Corman. And I have the physical book, but it's like falling apart. I found it at a little free library. And I really want to read the rest of this. It's a trilogy. And I'm like, darn it, I don't have book 2 or 3, but luckily my library has both of them, so I'm like immediately putting them on hold. This is all about a competition to see which of the teenagers is going to make it to like the top. It's like, I think there's like 15, 20 teenagers that are competing to get like 4 or 5 slots. There's 4 slots in the book, to get to climb Mount Everest. And so there's all sorts of like athletic competition, mental competition in here. And there's different interviews in here with the psychologist. And then you see like the leader of the instructor of the group talking about the teenagers. And so you get the different aspects, and it just moves along at a really fast clip. And it's very addictive reading. And so I don't know, it's kind of like a random book I really enjoyed reading. And I want to read the rest of it to see who wins this competition. And it also makes me want to read a lot of climbing books because it's something I enjoy reading about, but nothing I would ever want to do myself. I don't have really good balance. I don't like heights. I don't like risking life and limb for something like that. But I don't mind at all like armchair discovering things like that, which is just a fun aspect of reading. Then switching gears, I have a sci-fi book. This is A Pip and Flink's Adventure for Love of Mother Naught by Alan Dean Foster. And this is a book I talked about during my Friday reads that I was reading for the readathon. And this was great. It was the story about a young boy who has this kind of like, get little inklings of his ability. I don't give anything much away, but I think in the back of the book I might talk about this, how he has this like, he's able to read people's emotions, like to know exactly what they're feeling, not what they're thinking, but what they're feeling. And so it's this adventure of trying to find his mother, because he doesn't know why, but his mother, his adopted mother, is all of a sudden abducted. And so he has all these different ways of making his way to where she's being kept, like on like speedboats and with different helpers along the way, and writing these like science fiction like animals, like otherworldly animals along the way. And so it was just a like fast-paced story that was really nice. And the sidekick Pip is a like mini dragon, which was really interesting, that is like protecting him. And yeah, it was just a great story, and I'm looking forward to reading more. So anyways, let me know if you've read any of these books, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks, Book 2.